even on a reread and then even talking about it, when he suddenly appears, this is one of the, I reckon, my first time reading and second time, this was like the peak moment in the first 20 chapters when he just like launches in this massive dragon. She doesn't even come up to his ankles basically, and he just sort of demolishes everything that's confronting her. I love it.
It's an iconic moment. Hey besties, and welcome to Besties and Books. We are Ellen and this is Sarah, and we are so excited to dive into the world of fantasy and fantasy romance with you. So in this episode, it's a continuation of last week. We did chapters 1 to 10, a deep dive into Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and this week we are deep diving into chapters 11 through to 20. So we'll start with a quick summary of the chapter, and then we're going to talk about all things character development, plot twists, what we loved about the chapters, and so on, so on. So let's get into it. So, chapter 11. In this chapter, Violet faces the gauntlet, one of the most daunting and intense challenges in her journey so far. As someone who is not physically built to succeed at this task, she employs her intellect and resourcefulness, inspired by a comment made by Xaden earlier that the right way isn't the only way. Violet uses a rope to ascend a chimney-like structure and a dagger to scale a steep wall. After successfully completing the gauntlet, Amber Mavis, who is Dane's close friend from last year, a wing leader from the Third Wing, accuses Violet of cheating because she used foreign objects. Violet stands her ground and defends herself by citing rules that justify her use of the dagger. After Xaden sides with Violet, Amber storms off, clearly angry. In this chapter as well, Dane begs Violet not to attempt the gauntlet. He keeps stressing he cannot bear to watch his best friend, his childhood friend, die, and he fears he may have to bury her. And one of my favourite quotes, he asks Violet, "What has changed between Parapet and now?" And Violet says, "Me." What a bad ass. I just love it. Absolutely love it. So what do you think about Violet's approach to this challenge? Do you think, Amber's accusation of cheating is valid?
Well, I think Amber obviously comes from an environment where the whole college values brawn over brains. And in this scenario, Violet clearly demonstrates that there's other ways to achieve what she wants to achieve. So she doesn't have the height and the strength that some of the other cadets have. So she's using whatever she's got at her disposal. So, like you said, go girl, badass.
Yeah. A little part of me when I read this chapter thought, how is she going to make it? And initially I predicted she would do something with the ropes. I didn't think she would scale the chimney-like structure in the way that she did and use her dagger. And I loved that she invoked the rules as well and sort of used that against Dane and Amber's argument about it being against the rules, because obviously they're such rule followers.
I actually remember being quite confused in this chapter. Only
really?
Because
Okay.
They talk about the gauntlet being as if you were trying to scale or mount a dragon.
Yes.
And reading the text, I just couldn't put this, presumably this chimney-like structure somehow looks like the back of a dragon. But to be honest, I was like, she's scaling a wall and she's using a dagger. That's great. But I thought, does this really transfer to launching onto a dragon? I guess so, maybe. Anyway.
Yeah. All right, let's get into chapter 12.
Okay. Presentation day has arrived. Violet and the other cadets are required to parade past the dragons who are willing to bond, staying at least 7 feet apart in case one of them gets scorched by dragonfire. A task that highlights the intimidating and dangerous nature of their training. As they approach the dragons, the cadets are filled with fear and awe, knowing that these creatures are incredibly powerful and unpredictable. To distract themselves from the dragons, they discuss the myths around wyvern and venom, and Violet quickly shuts it all down as folklore and bedtime stories. They come across a small golden feather-tailed dragon, and some of the cadets scoff at its size and colour, stating it would be a perfect match for Violet, even though they all know that feather-tailed dragons do not bond. By the end of presentation day, 2 cadets are found unworthy by the dragons and are scorched to death. it's quite a heavy chapter, really. My God. So this is the first time I think in the book that we hear mention of the words wyvern and venom. In hindsight, did we think much of this first time reading, or should we have thought much of this first time reading? In hindsight, we now know that they will play big parts in the future.
Yeah. Look, I think this was the second time it was mentioned. It was briefly mentioned at the very, very, very beginning when I think Violet really wanted to take her precious book from her dad. What was it called? Oh, the Book of Fables, that's right. And I don't know if she mentioned wyvern and venom at that time, but the book was mentioned. I couldn't help but wonder if there was something more here. I did sort of suspect that something was going to come of this book. It was just this is the second time that it sort of had been mentioned. I didn't know if wyvern or venom were going to be real, but it was on the radar.
So the wyvern and venom are basically the equivalent of a dragon and a rider, but the evil version. And what is the story with the feathertail dragon? Why do they all hate on it?
I don't know if I liked that part.
Just because it's smaller and looks weak? Is that the only reason?
Yeah, I think so. And they're not supposed to bond because they're juvenile, but I don't know. I think they're just trying to drive home the point that if you're a dragon rider and you're a cadet, you're supposed to be basically invincible and cruel and heartless and just working to protect the borders, and that's it. That's your job, and if you don't do it properly, you die.
So strength as represented by size is really one of their core values. For most of them.
I also loved this chapter because it's the first time that we get to meet all the dragons. I was so looking forward to this. I was like, oh, I can't wait to see all the colours and hear about, each dragon, because I know that Violet recites a lot of the history of Navarre and of their culture and things throughout tasks and challenges. So I thought perhaps when she's meeting the dragons, there's going to be a bit more info dumping there about all the different breeds and stuff. So I was super excited to meet the dragons.
Dragon lover.
I know.
All right, chapter 13.
Let's do it. So threshing has arrived. An important event that determines which cadets are chosen by the dragons to be their riders. Violet is nervous and unsure about her chances of being selected by a dragon and surviving the initial dragon flight. Threshing starts with cadets entering a forested valley and pray they come out alive. Some cadets are chosen by a dragon immediately, but others are not. The cadets are simply told to trust their hearts and feelings to hear a dragon calling to them. Dane also tries to convince Violet into trying to bond a safe brown dragon.
Boring.
I'm getting so annoyed by Dane. Violet watches anxiously as dragons with their newly chosen riders launch into the air. Violet comes across 3 cadets, Jack fucking Barlow, Oren and Tynan, planning on killing the small golden feathertail dragon from presentation day. She can't stand by and watch it happen. So racing to warn the feathertail, Violet pleads with it to leave before the cadets arrive, but the feathertail doesn't budge. Jack and the others arrive and Violet appeals to them not to kill the dragon, as it is against everything that they stand for. Jack gleefully exclaims they can take out 2 weaklings, Violet and the feathertail, at the same time. But then Xaden arrives and warns Jack and the others to reconsider their actions.
We love that moment.
Oh, so good. So at this point, Violet is already injured, right? I think she's hurt her foot and I think her arm gets injured somewhere in here as well. And she really risks her safety to protect this feather-tailed dragon against Jack Barlow and his mates, despite her own uncertain future. She hasn't bonded a dragon yet. What do you think this says about her character?
She's a badass.
Totally.
It obviously says she has a strong sense of what is right and what a rider should stand for. And one of those things is protecting those that can't protect themselves. Although, interestingly, a lot of riders don't seem to hold that same opinion. I do think it's interesting that she, this is the time where she's supposed to be seeking her own dragon. So she really has an interest in leaving all this and just running away and finding a dragon, but she doesn't. She focuses on what's real, what's in front of her, and not on the possibilities or the opportunities that may be around her in seeking a dragon. So she's acting very selflessly.
Do you think there's a bit of self-doubt there? Like she's sort of like, well, I can't climb a dragon anyway to ride it and I'm just going to fall down.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she may end up at the end of the day without a dragon either way, so she may as well try and help what she sees in front of her.
Yeah. All right, let's get into chapter 14.
Ooh, so Violet feels a fleeting sense of hope when she sees Xaden, but quickly realizes he must follow the rules and he cannot interfere, meaning that she is facing certain death with an audience. Despite being outnumbered, she fights back fiercely and even lands some blows. Jack flees like the coward he is when Violet injures his shoulder. Oren is knocked unconscious and Tynan is closing in to kill her when Xaden takes one step towards Violet as though he might just intervene to save her life, despite the rules and the history. Before Violet can process what that even means, a massive black dragon appears, intimidating Tynan into retreating. The dragon tells Violet to step aside as he incinerates the area, Tynan included. He then urges Violet to kill the unconscious Oren, but she refuses on moral grounds. To Violet's complete shock, the dragon, called Tarn, tells her to get onto his back, and she realizes that he has selected her to be his rider. Doubting her ability to mount such a massive creature, Tarn lowers his leg, making it easier for her to climb. Once on his back, Violet experiences the overwhelming power of Tarn's light as they soar into the sky. Struggling to maintain her grip, she quickly slips off his back and is in freefall. Now, a couple of other key things to note here is that Tarn was not expected to bond with a rider this threshing. So dragons have to put their hand up to say if they want to bond. He did not apply for the role. He has spoken directly into her mind, and a dragon will only speak mind to mind with their rider. So at this point, as a reader, we are pretty sure that he has selected her to be his rider. He also comes up with a nickname, Silver One, for her, which is quite cute, and they have already got the banter going on back and forth and back and forth. He tells her very bluntly, "You're bleeding, stop it. Make it stop." Which I just love. All right, well,
it's almost like Tarn is that comic relief side character.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good.
I love the banter.
And I think even on a reread and then even talking about it, when he suddenly appears, this is one of the, I reckon, my first time reading and second time, this was like the peak moment in the first 20 chapters when he just like launches in this massive dragon. She doesn't even come up to his ankles basically, and he just sort of demolishes everything that's confronting her. I love it.
It's an iconic moment.
And I guess at this point, we're sort of thinking, oh, Violet's journey is going to change.
Yeah.
What about Xaden's one step toward Violet? What was that about?
When I first read this, I was like, that I think was the moment for me. I was like, he's got feelings for her. Like, this is going to turn into a romance. I think I was still in denial up until this point.
Were you still hoping Dane was going to come good?
No.
Okay.
I thought this was going to be more of a fantasy book than a romantasy book. And so I wasn't expecting this sort of romantic subplot to sort of happen there. I think at this moment I was like, stop being naive, Ellen. Like, they're going to get together.
He is willing to break one of the rules that no one is ever supposed to break by coming to her aid. We assume, which, you know, presumably shows he values people more than rules and authority.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice.
He's a rule breaker.
We all like a baddie.
All right, so chapter 15. Free-falling and terrified, Violet is unexpectedly caught midair by Tarn. She continues to struggle to maintain her seat on his back, so Tarn uses his magic to keep her in position during a series of training maneuvers because he does not want to look bad. Violet contemplates how she, an unlikely rider, ended up bonded with Tarn, one of the deadliest and largest dragons alive, and he tells her it was because of her courage, intelligence, and willingness to protect others. Upon landing, the scene shifts to a gathering of dragons and their riders. Violet is surprised to hear the Golden Feathertail also speak directly to her mind.
Ooh.
And reminds the Feathertail that dragons are not supposed to speak to anyone but their own rider. Violet reveals Tarn's name to the roll keeper, and to her shock, the golden feathertail speaks in her mind, announcing her own name, Endana. I love this moment so much. This revelation causes a stir, and it seems that Violet has bonded with not one, but 2 dragons, an unprecedented event, leaving everyone around her in awe. I think something also important to note here is that when Violet lands with Tarn, she sees her mother, and the mother just stares at the dragon. She doesn't even check to see if Violet's okay. She also implies that Violet might have hijacked Tarn somehow when Violet says the name to the roll keeper. So she's really not believing in Violet. So what were your initial reactions when you read that Violet had bonded 2 dragons?
Do you know what? I think my first thought was something about Dane. Like, now the guy can go and get stuffed, right? Like,
yes.
How can he tell her she doesn't belong now when she has 2 dragons?
Yeah.
And also, do you have 2 dragons? That's awesome. I feel like it really opens up the next part of the book, where we've gone from sort of these scared cadets that are really, hoping and thinking that they might survive the first couple of months, now to going, oh, we're actually legitimate writers, and we can get on with the story, and we can do whatever the writers do that we're going to find out soon about.
So what does Tarn's decision to bond with Violet reveal about the qualities that are truly valued in a writer, especially when Tarn says one of my favourite iconic lines, "I know who and what you are, Violet Sorrengail."
Yeah. Well, I think he's saying for the biggest dragon of the bunch, he values strength that's other than physical strength. So he tells her quite a few times, I didn't pick you for your muscles, I picked you for your brain, and you are the smartest in the year. And sometimes that's worth more than any other type of strength. You legend, Tarn.
Yes,
That's why we love you.
And I love that he implies, like, I know you to your soul. Like, I know you. I've been waiting for you. You are the right person. Oh, love it.
But then, I mean, the fact that he wasn't planning on bonding, do we do we think he had his eye on her the whole time, or was it simply, if she hadn't come to Endana's aid, would her strength of mind still have won him over?
I think that's actually a plot hole.
Oh.
Like, I think it's a little bit of a plot hole, because he says he knows who and what she is, and he can see into her soul and all of this sort of stuff, and he's made a judgment call on that. But when did that happen? Like, was that before he had access to her mind, before they spoke mind to mind? Like, when did he examine her soul, I guess? Yeah. I don't know how else to put it. I think maybe not a plot hole, but I think that was a part that wasn't properly explained.
I actually thought, when I first read this chapter, I was thinking, before she bonded Tarn, I was suspecting that she wasn't going to bond a dragon at all, but then she would bond a dragon out of threshing, like later on. And I thought it would be the big black dragon, but I thought it would happen out of sync, and then that would cause a scandal because he hadn't bonded her in the proper manner. Yeah, but that was wrong, obviously.
No, I love hearing these theories. I think because obviously, as this is an unfinished series, and as more books are coming out, it's really good to like try and come up with theories about what's going to happen. Yeah. I also like what I think was missing for me in this part too, which I would have loved if Rebecca explained a bit more, was the decision making around bonding 2 dragons. Like, did Tarn automatically think, yep, it's okay if Endana bonds her as well? Or like, what was the decision making around that? Did he just sort of accept her authority that she was also going to bond Tarn? Because we find out later on that Endana's been waiting for Violet and hatched, knowing that Violet was going to be coming to the college. But yeah, so
even in book 3, it goes through the rules of why it should never have been possible for 2 to bond.
Yeah.
So you wonder why Tarn obviously either didn't know about that or didn't think to question it at the time.
Yeah, just a couple of things that are missing. Yeah. I think that would have been nice.
We love the book, but she's not a Brandon Sanderson, let's be honest. But it's very entertaining.
Absolutely love the book. And I think I just want to drive home the point. I wouldn't have minded if this book was like double the size, just to flesh out a few more points and flesh out a bit more of the world building and stuff like that. I still would have, I think, loved it all the same. On the Brandon Sanderson point too, he did like a stand-up talking about writing and fantasy and how amazing it is that so many young readers are getting back into reading again because of fantasy, when it was once upon a time considered like, oh, you read fantasy, read some real stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But he comments on Fourth Wing. Someone says, you know, young people are reading rubbish like Fourth Wing. How do you feel as an author of series like Way of Kings and Mistborn? And Brandon Sanderson's like, Fourth Wing is awesome.
Yeah.
It is a great book. Don't rag on it. Like, what are you talking about?
But
it's
also,
an amazing book.
he has written a lot of series. Like, Mistborn does not have any of the complexity that The Way of Kings has. So he's obviously worked his way up to that sort of a level. Anyway,
because I haven't read Mistborn. Yeah,
we digress.
Let's go on.
Chapter 16.
Let's get into chapter 16.
All right. While getting her injuries tended to in the medical station, Violet overhears generals arguing about her situation, including the fact that she bonded to 2 dragons, Tarn and Andana. As the dragons gather for a meeting of their Empyrean, their leadership, Violet worries about the implications of her dual bond and whether she will be forced to choose between her dragons or no. She learns that only 4 of her squad remains out of 9. Dane is, of course, worried about her safety and so urges her to choose Andana over Tarn as she is the safe choice. We learn that Tarn is mated to Xaden's dragon, Gale, and as mated dragons, they cannot be separated for long periods of time. So neither will Xaden and Violet be able to. Dane accuses Xaden of manipulating Threshing by calling on Tarn to intervene, but Xaden interrupts and in a tense exchange highlights how Dane places more value on rules than relationships. Dane even admits that he would not have interfered to save Violet's life out of loyalty to the rules. That's why we hate him. In contrast, Violet recalls how Xaden has shown moments of protectiveness towards her, even when against the rules. The Empyrean declares that the dual bond will stand. Woohoo! Xaden tells Violet there is now an us bond between them. Strong dragons form strong bonds with their riders and mates. If one dies, they potentially all die.
I'm scared about that, by the way. That's foreshadowing for sure.
Dane confesses feelings for Violet and kisses her, but at that moment she realizes she is no longer interested in Dane. Thank the Lord. Another key thing we sort of glean from this chapter, and this is when Xaden is talking to Violet, is that Violet is going to be target number 1 for any unbonded rider, in the hope that if they kill her, Tarn will bond with them instead. And then Rebecca Yarros, because we love her, she does a bonus chapter of the final sort of moments of this chapter, and we see from Xaden's perspective that he's going to make it his number 1 priority to keep Violet alive at all costs. He also watches the kiss between Dane and Violet, and he is consumed with jealousy at the sight. So again, we have a situation where Dane and Xaden have completely contrasting takes on the situation. In this case, rules versus relationships. Oh my gosh, what does this say about both of them? Apart from the fact that we hate Dane.
I hate the fact that Dane's like, I wouldn't have stepped in for you. Like, I would have let you die.
He's a total loser. The nicest thing I can say about him. He won't break a single rule for people he loves, whereas there's no rule that Xaden wouldn't break for those he loves. I mean, come on.
Do you think Dane will have a redemption arc?
I mean, he sort of does a little bit in the future. Like, he becomes, he
sort of
comes back to neutral, right?
I don't know. He hasn't quite made up for everything though, in my mind. He's not fully redeemed.
What did you think when we first learned that Violet and Xaden's dragons are mates?
I loved this so much because you do hear a lot of in fantasy about fated mates, but it's normally between like the two main characters. It's
not the dragons.
I've never seen it. Yeah, dragons. I don't know where I was going with that. So I loved that. I loved it, loved it, loved it. Did not see it coming. Did not predict it at all.
No, I didn't either.
They're also the perfect match, like Sigale and Tarn. I love it.
As far as we know, perfect dragon matches.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree. I do agree.
But he just like, do you know what I mean? He seems like an cranky old man, but he's like, I'm super strong. I'm the best dragon ever. I know all the things. I'm all wise. And my full name is blah, 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 descendant from blah, blah, blah. Like he does that quite a lot throughout the series.
or something. What is that?
Whereas Sigale's a bit more mysterious. She's sort of like Xaden in that sense, like with his shadows and being a bit mysterious.
But cutthroat, quiet.
Yeah. Well, so I really love that.
You don't really hear her joke as much, but possibly we just also don't get as much insight into her mind as Tarn's.
No, and I don't think she would. I think she's quite like serious. She's quite like, she's a warrior. She's a badass. She's like the most fierce female dragon in the Empyrean. But yes, the point is, I love that they made it.
Chapter 17.
So Violet is officially a dragon rider. Threshing causes a shift in power dynamics, and Violet notices strange, even submissive behaviors from other cadets and riders. She has bonded one of the most powerful dragons, which makes her one of the most powerful riders. Violet exchanges a tense moment with Oren, whom attacked her during threshing. Imogen, who has a history of animosity with Violet, offers to help her with sparring and weight training, though Violet senses there's more to her offer. She notices Xaden's gaze across the hall and realizes that he might be involved in her survival plan. This marks the beginning of an alliance between them, with Xaden's concern for her safety becoming apparent. Violet attends her first training day as a bonded rider, and they start flight lessons. She struggles to maintain her seat on Tarn's back, but despite several falls, Tarn continues to catch her. Tarn's tough love approach is evident as he pushes her to challenge her limits. Dane awkwardly explains to Violet that their kiss was a mistake and would jeopardize his career. Just go away. Violet agrees to not pursuing their relationship, although for different reasons. So other things that are sort of worth mentioning here are the marked ones. So they're the children of the rebels, are very loyal to Xaden, and he's calling in favors to ensure Violet is prepped and trained and is really looked after and her safety is protected. But also, at this point, Violet keeps looking at Xaden and is now making comments within her own mind like, he is so freaking beautiful. So the tension between them as she watches Xaden peel an apple with his dagger is like,
That
obviously
so lame.
See, I love it. I love it.
As in peeling an apple with a dagger.
I think it's so badass. But also, I've looked at so much fan art as well, like on Instagram and stuff. I love watching the AI fan art that people come up with. They're so clever. And I think
Especially
I remember seeing
with
one.
Peeling.
Yeah. So how do you think Violet's relationships with the marked ones, so the children of the rebels, evolve after she bonds with Tarn?
Ooh, well, we sort of have Tarn in her ear saying, you can trust Xaden. And even straight away after he selected her as a rider, he tells her, go and stand with the wing leader. And she thinks he's talking about going and standing with Dane. And Tarn says, no, go and stay with Xaden. So she's got Tarn on one side saying, you can trust him, you can trust him, you can trust him. And I think as soon as it sinks into her that her and Xaden have this mutual bond where they need to protect each other, she then understands, well, if that's the case, then all the marked ones are going to protect her and she's therefore safe from them. So I think that obviously opens up the communication channels more. Previously, Imogen never ever spoke to her, and really the only encounter they had was when she tried to kill Violet. So now I guess there's like the death threat element is gone and they're actually talking, This is really when we do see a shift in the openness, communication, and we start to see some bonds forming. But it's very early days. I'd say this is just sort of from now we're really going to see some changes. We haven't seen too much yet, except for the weird morning after the riders are selected and the power shifts change. But more to come on that.
I think I was also put on notice, I guess. Like, I was a bit suspicious about the marked ones all of a sudden dropping everything to protect Violet after trying to kill her. Like, the hatred would run really deep there. And so my automatic thought was, Xaden's done something for them. Like, Xaden must have done something big for the marked ones to turn around and then protect Violet after having so much hatred. Like, sure, you're loyal because you're all children of the rebellion, but that goes deeper, like that deep hatred.
I guess I bought it hook, line, and sinker. Because I just figured, well, if they kill her, then they potentially kill him. And,
of course.
And
I forgot about that.
Whether he's done anything particularly special or not, they do seem to be a unit. I sort of bought that line of, oh yeah, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I forgot about it. All right, chapter 18.
Violet bumps into an old friend from the scribe quadrant, Jacinia, and Violet reflects on the fact that she's actually happy in the rider's quadrant and feels a sense of rightness in where she is. Violet asks Jacinia for the Book of Fables about Wyvern and Venom. Jacinia explains that she has never heard of that text, but she'll have a look. Violet joins her squad for lunch, where they discuss recent developments such as magical powers emerging and the danger of uncontrolled signet powers. If a signet power does not develop in time, magic funneled from the dragon to the rider can actually consume and kill a rider. In flight training, Tarn teases Violet for only falling off his back a dozen times, and she banters back by calling him a menace. Other riders are not so fortunate, some falling to their death, not to be plucked out of the air by their rider, but to be replaced by a newly selected rider. Dane berates Violet when he finds out she has been consistently falling off Tarn's back, and she bites back at him, saying there will never be anything between them because he has no faith in her. A first year also manifests a mind-reading signet called Intrinsic Power, and he is executed on the spot by Professor Carr. That is brutal. In the middle of the night, Tarn abruptly tells Violet to wake up or she will die. Her eyes fly open to find 7 cadets in her room, all armed and all out for blood. She recognizes one cadet who flees immediately, and she fights the rest off as Tarn shouts unhelpful advice, telling her to hang on as he is almost there. Oren holds a blade to her throat and hisses, "Your dragon is mine," as Andana screams, "Mine!" And suddenly everyone in the room is frozen except for Violet. What the actual heck? Oh my gosh. This was
so intense.
This was a full-on chapter. Firstly though, the intrinsic being executed on the spot.
I know.
That was nuts. And I actually reading it, I mean, there's a lot of death going on in the book, right? But that was one of the ones, more so than I think the dragons scorching, the cadets who aren't worthy. This moment for me, I was like, what the fuck? They can't just do that. But I think generally I just find it bizarre that they're trying to raise these sort of dragon rider soldier armies, but they just kill them off so easily. Whether it's in training or it's like your ability is not quite how we want it to be, and they just keep offing them. Oh man.
I do wish that was fleshed out a bit more, because I kept on having to reread it over and over and over again. I was like, but why? Why is it so dangerous? I don't understand why intrinsic powers, mind-reading powers are so dangerous. Like, can't you ward against that? Like, I understand it's a danger for leadership. Like, if they want to, progress and take over, yes, that would be extremely powerful.
There would surely be someone with a power that has a blocking mind power or something, or a spell or a rune or whatever. Yeah. I agree. That was a bit sort of like, come on, give us a bit more. Oh, another thing to note is, so Violet does learn that the archives do not have a copy of the Book of Fables that she had requested from her scribe friend. Should we have thought Like, I didn't think much of it. Oh, did I think much of it first time reading? I can't really remember, actually. But we should probably be cluing in at this point that something is not quite right if the archives that should have every single book in there doesn't actually have this book.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think I was getting more cluey at this point if I didn't, suspect it fully.
Something's going to happen.
Definitely an ultimate clue. What are your impressions of her friendship with Jacinia and the representation of sign language in the book?
I really just thought Jacinia was quite a boring side character.
No!
Yeah, I was happy to sort of skip through her. I mean, obviously, hey, I've read it, but I was just like, oh, come on, get back to the good stuff. The sign language, I didn't really get. Why did the scribes all exclusively sign?
I think it was trying to make it more inclusive. Like it was, we live in a society where we're not conducive to people with differing needs. We should all, there's quite a lot of people out there who are deaf or who need sign language to be able to communicate, and it just makes it more inclusive.
But as a general, all scribes have to sign, I just thought, how inconvenient. It must take a long time to... Well, oh, whatever, take it or leave it.
Did you realise, though, that Jacinia was deaf, though? She had to sign? Did you pick up on that?
No, she wasn't.
Yeah, she is. No. Yeah, she can't talk.
Hang on.
That's the point.
I thought every scribe had to sign.
No. She can't communicate. So her only way of communication is...
I totally did not get that at all.
That's what I was like, when you were going on about it, I was like, wait, hang on a minute. Hang on. I think she's missing this.
Oh, that totally went over my head.
So when I first read it, I was like, oh, I thought they were talking about signing into the archives. It wasn't explained very well. They were just signing in. I didn't pick up on it being Auslan Sign Language until really far down the track. And then I made the connection. I was like, oh, Jacinia can't communicate unless it's through sign language.
I never
And that's
got
why
that.
Sawyer wants to learn it, because he's attracted to Jacinia, but he can't communicate with her.
Because every single scribe only talks in signs.
No!
I thought it was something about the library and you have to be quiet so everyone signs. That's why I was like, God, how inconvenient is that? Oh, okay, well, there you go. We learned something new.
Oh, it makes me laugh. Oh. Anyway, we love the representation of that.
Oh, well, yeah, sure, now. Yeah. Now that there actually is someone in the book that's deaf, yeah. Good job, Rebecca.
But in fairness, it wasn't fleshed out well. It would have been nice for that to be fleshed out properly so that we picked up on it from the beginning and could really appreciate, I think, that representation in there and how normalized it was. I loved that little touch, but it just needed to be fleshed out a bit more because you're still confused and you've read it twice. All right, let's move into chapter 19. Shocked and shaken, Violet quickly frees herself from Oren's grasp and stumbles toward her bedroom door. No one else moves or breathes. Xaden enters Violet's room to complete chaos as time is unfrozen and swiftly intervenes. He uses his shadow powers to restrain the attackers and personally slices Oren's throat. Garrick and Bodhi, Xaden's most trusted friends, clean up the bodies while Xaden almost tenderly checks Violet for injuries. Xaden assists her in putting on her boots and then leads her through a concealed passageway out of Basgiath where the dragons await. They learn that Endana, due to her juvenile status, was able to share her time-freezing power with Violet. They all agree to keep this information totally confidential though, because that is an extremely powerful power. Xaden declares that he and Violet need to start trusting each other and demands to know how cadets entered her room. So in this chapter as well, we learn that Sigale is able to talk mind to mind with Violet, likewise Tarn with Xaden because of the mated relationship. So I really love that little touch as well. And Violet also admits that she's never killed anyone before, which I think we could pick up on by this point, right?
Mm.
So something about this is quite a pivotal moment for Violet. She begins to see that while he may be dangerous, so while Xaden may be dangerous, he can also be trusted in ways that she hadn't anticipated. What was your first...
And he is brutal.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Just like, he just slaughters, 7 of them on sight.
Yeah, there was no questions. There was no like justice. There was no, well, I mean, it's justice, but there's no protocol or procedure for that justice.
I love that he comes in and he is this like, he sees her under attack and he's just this cold, controlled man. Like, there is nothing sort of like, he's not like yelling or like erupting or anything. He's just like ice cold, brutal. They're all dead.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Oren, what an asshole. Thank God he's gone.
I really loved that about Xaden as well. I loved that added to his like strong, mysterious, but cold, almost like morally grey character, would you say?
Oh, yeah. He will not tolerate any threat to Violet, so he will just slaughter anyone in the way. And we love it.
Don't we love it? What was your first impression, though, when you learned that Andana could freeze time? Did you think that could be her signet power?
Well, do you know what? I do remember being initially confused when Andana screams this, like mine thing, and then the door blasts open. I was really confused. I think I had to reread it a few times to be like, is Adana actually at the door? Like, is the little dragon, because she's a small dragon, I was imagining her like, ah! like pushing the door open and like trying to splay her wings to get inside. And then I was like, and then when she doesn't enter the room, I thought, oh no, she's not there. So obviously only Violet. So I was very, I think I was a bit more distracted about like the mechanics of how this was all working as opposed to the actual time freezing thing. But when I got over that, I was like, "Ooh, this is interesting." But yeah, and then I wasn't sure. Wait, did Violet freeze the time, or did Andana do it, or is it I had no idea. I was like, "Is this a signet? Is it not? What's going on here?" But I was gripped. I was into it.
Yeah, I was the same. I was like, I was confused about whether it was Andana or a signet power or something like that. Yeah. All right, let's move into chapter 20.
Okay, the next morning at formation, the death of 6 cadets who attacked Violet is announced, and she has no room for sorrow for them. Her friends are seething when they hear what occurred. Violet watches Xaden and realizes that she wants him, and she hasn't taken anyone else to bed because of it. Violet had told Xaden how the cadets had entered her room, but she's not sure whether he believed her or not. Liam Mary has moved into Violet's squad as a bodyguard for Violet, and she is not impressed by Xaden's decision. Liam, as a child of the rebellion, is loyal to Xaden, and as a first year, is able to be everywhere Violet is. Xaden makes a public announcement of the illegal attack on a rider in his wing, stating it was both a dishonorable and capital offense. He then shocks everyone by calling out wing leader Amber Mavis as the orchestrator of the attack. Amber is sentenced to death by fire by a quorum of wing leaders, and Tarn executes her on the spot by burning. It feels like these days every chapter is just brutal in its death. Oh gosh. Dane, interestingly, does not believe Xaden's claim about Amber. He demands Violet call him out for lying, and then he doesn't even believe Violet when she backs up his claim. This is why, again, we hate Dane. In contrast, Xaden believed Violet without her showing any proof. She mentioned Amber Mavis, and he was like, all right, I'm going to execute her for you. Done. Just say the name and she's gone. Violet, she actually does try and intervene to save Amber's life, but Tan says, sorry mate, justice is not always merciful, and they sort of outvote her and poor Amber is gone. So I feel like we've mentioned it a few times, but it feels like every couple of chapters there's another nail in the coffin of the Violet and Dane relationship. And I think here I go, and I've thought it many times before, all right, this is the last straw. Like, how much more of this can we take?
Actually, this, for me, was the moment where I was like, all sympathy for Dane has gone out the window. Like, childhood best friend. Like, I was just like, to not believe her and believe Amber just because of their, fling in the last year or whatever. This was like a moment for me where I was like, get away from her. Just get away from her. Yeah. Look inward, mate. Look inward.
And then meanwhile, how do we feel about Xaden for just trusting her and believing her?
I feel like Rebecca's leaning a bit on dark romance here too. Like, just with the whole, like, you told her that she was the one who opened your door. Okay, I'll kill her for you. Like, Oren, you know, is the one that tried to kill you. Okay, I've slit his throat. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It's really like leaning on that sort of dark romance almost genre a little bit. But yes, I love him. And I just am so looking forward to their developing relationship at this point.
That is a wrap from us today. We will be continuing with the Fourth Wing journey in future episodes. However, for next week, we will be back to our TBR jar to select 4 new books to read.
And we should mention here too that the week after is the one where we'll be doing the wrap up of the books that we chose in episode 1. So super excited for that episode too. But anyway, thanks for hanging out with us today, besties. We hope you have an amazing rest of the week filled with great reads and good vibes, and we will catch you next time. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. We've got lots of magical reading ahead. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.